بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد عبده ورسوله أما بعد. So today we're having our second of the special lectures on the feminine journey, where we talk about issues related to women and Islam, issues which are relevant but also helpful in sisters navigating the world we're in and trying to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have today, inshallah, and what time is available, a topic which is of great importance. The truth be told, requires a lot more time than I'm able to give it right now. But inshallah, maybe later we will be able to expand on it, which is the meaning of beauty in Islam. And this topic of beauty, al-jamal, al-mafhum al-jamal, the understanding or the conception of Jamal in Islam, is something which is very interesting but very important, critically important in today's time, due to the number of issues that we see in our society in general, but also affecting our sisters in particular. And that is the focus on the outward appearance and the desire to beautify oneself, which, as we'll see in our lesson today, or our lecture, it is not something haram in and of itself. But the danger, obviously, of neglecting the true meaning of beauty and also disobeying Allah while in that journey. And what I hope to do today, inshallah ta'ala, is just kind of open our mind to what Islam says about beauty. And maybe later we can expand on it and look at more examples, because it is a very deep topic. Books have been written. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah has a work. Imam ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, has plenty of statements about beauty, and research has been done and compiled from those two great imams and others about what it means to be beautiful, what is beauty. And also the Quran and Sunnah are full of that. So inshallah, without losing any further time, we jump right in, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. We have to begin our conversation with the definition of happiness. Of beauty. Because if we want to be on the same page, we have to know what we're talking about. In Arabic, the word al-jamalu, it's the word used for happiness. Beauty. I keep saying happiness, beauty. Now, there are other words that are also used for beauty, but we're talking about beauty as used in the Quran and Sunnah and Islam teaches. Other words like al-husn, right, is also there. And there are other terminologies as well. But as we see, the Quran and the Sunnah, they use the word al-jamal to refer to beauty. So let's give an example, right? In front of us, we have the Hadith. Before even citing that, we can go to the Quran. Surah An-Nahl, chapter 16, verse 6. قال الله تعالى: وَلَكُمْ فِيهَا جَمَالٌ حِينَ تُرِيحُونَ وَحِينَ تَسْرَحُونَ. Allah says in relation to the animals, the camels, that you have or you find beauty for you when you bring them home, yani the camels, in the evening as you lead them forth to pasture in the morning. So Allah says beauty, jamal, and that's the key word we're going to use. So what does it mean? Scholars, they say, from the linguistic perspective, it refers to beauty in action and appearance. Very important. Look at that two-folded or two-pronged definition. In fi'l, in action, was surah, and an appearance. And this is important because this word that we're talking about, al-jamal, it's unique in the sense that it's giving us an understanding of the word which is more than what it meets the eye. I'm sure, and we all heard, and we'll probably continuously hear, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And it's not a wrong statement in its entirety. But when we hear that word and we're saying that, what we're talking about there? What we're saying is that beauty of what? Beauty of the form? Are we limiting beauty already in our terminology that we get from the West? And I'm gonna again unpack it as we go along. So pay attention to even these kinds of messaging. Beauty in Islam, al-jamal, is both in action and creation and appearance. So from an Islamic perspective, it carries a similar meaning. Al-Jamal is a word we use to refer to beauty, something which is attractive, something which is pleasing, something which is intriguing in both action, statement, and appearance, all of them. And the proof for that is the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, in which the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Inna Allah jamilun, verily Allah is all beautiful and he loves beauty. So when we look at this narration, we learn two things. Number one, the source of happiness, beauty. And number two, the meaning of beauty. The first part is the source. Allah is beautiful, all beautiful, absolute beauty, as we'll see. Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal, and he loves beauty. So Ibn Athir, rahimahullah, commenting on this hadith in Jami' Usul, he says, beauty occurs in both form and meaning. And surah wal ma'ana. Surah is the physical side of things. Wal ma'na is that intangible side of things. And we're going to see that intangible here means akhlaq wa qiyam, character and manners and morals. And he says from that is the hadith, and he cites the hadith. So what we take from this is the benefit. And when we use the word al-jamal, and someone is jameel, we're not saying, and hopefully we're not using it any longer in a restricted sense, in just referring to the appearance. We're actually extending beyond it. And we're going to see why that's very key to our understanding and conception of beauty in Islam. Because if we think beauty is just appearance, then we're going to end up in what we see today in the Western culture of the problems that come from overemphasis on outward beauty and not inward. So at the end, we need to think about this definition. And with that being said then, that this meaning of beauty then is different than another word. And I said before, the other words are used to refer to beauty. But Islam, the Quran and Sunnah use the word al-jamal. And the reason is because the meaning it carries is deep. And this shows another benefit before we move on. The Quran and Sunnah, the alfaz, the wordings that are used, and the terminology that are used and revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore they carry the most expansive and appropriate meanings. So we can see that the fact is someone to say why the Quran and Sunnah use the word jamal. In other words, we learn here that in Islam, beauty goes further than physical appearance. Hence the word husn, and husn, which also can mean beauty, is not used, but the word jamal is used. Abu Hilal al-Askari, rahimahullah, he writes in his kitab, Al-Furuq fi al-Lugha, it's also been translated in English by Dar al-Salam recently, Al-Furuq fi al-Lugha, where he talks about the differences between words in the Arabic language. He writes in there, Jamal was originally applied to actions, character, and those things which appear in a man or a person. And then it was extended to include the forms. Allahu Akbar. The origin of Jamal is in what? Actions, statements. But then throughout usage, it then included the outer appearance. Whereas the word husn was originally applied to forms and then was extended to actions and character. So for example, we look at the ahadith, we hear the descriptions that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was ahsan nas, but he was the best of people in appearance. What does that mean? It means he's beautiful physically. This is the sifat Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which had to do with his actual physical body. So we know that you can use the word husn to refer to beauty. All right, and that's why we don't reject that usage. And to show you this, hadith Muslim. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام فمررت بيوسف, I passed by Yusuf during the Isra wal Mi'raj, وإذا هو قد أعطي شطر الحسن. Allah, pay attention to the wording. وإذا هو, and I saw that he was given أعطي شطر الحسن, he was given half of all beauty. What does that mean? Half of all? According to the word husn, husn means apparent form. Apparent form. But then it was extended to include actions. Allahu Akbar. So in Islam, we're talking about Jamal, We're talking about husn only because we need to talk about what people can actually do about their beauty, and we're going to address the big issue, which is that if we understand our definition of beauty is limited to physical appearance, no wonder we're going to have so many problems and so much pressure. But once we expand it to include action statements and things which are more readily available in people's control, not only can everybody engage in beautifying themselves, but also we're going to realize the reality of happiness, of beauty, is going to be achieved. So pay attention to this farq Abu Hilal Askari he mentions and the hadith in Muslim, right, about Yusuf alayhi salam. Just a side benefit, who's more beautiful, Yusuf alayhi salam or Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam? The ulama, they differed. And some of our contemporary scholars, I believe our Shaykh Yahya Hajuri and amongst other scholars, they actually indicate that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was more beautiful. Allahu Akbar. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so now that we understand the word Jamal al Husn and difference between the two, we need to move on from there towards the source of beauty. The hadith I just mentioned and cited earlier gives us a foundation where it mentioned in Allah Jamilun. So in Islam, we learn that beauty in all of its kinds, in all of its forms, in all of the creation, in the entire universe, is a direct effect of the divine attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is beauty. Since Allah is al-Jamil, which means He has Jamal al-Mutlaq, absolute, perfect, complete beauty, all beauty resources back to Him. And as a side benefit, then, we can learn one of the proofs for Allah's existence, and it's not often used as much as it can be, is the proof of beauty and aesthetics. As we know, even within the Western philosophy, one thing that they study is the study of beauty. And if you study that topic, you learn one of the conversation is what is beauty? Where does it come from? What's the source of it? So for a Muslim, it's already solved. Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah is the source of all beauty because He's al-Jamil. And it's beautiful because for us it shows if there's beauty, there's Allah. How do we know that? Because who put it there in the first place? Why is the creation beautiful, not just functional? Allahu Akbar. And today, if I told you I'm gonna make something for you, a chair, a table, whatever, and it's just functional, you will accept it. And if it's beautiful and functional, that's when most of us, it leads to admiration, right? You start to really be amazed. So we see that beauty is proof of Allah's existence. And Imam al-Munawi, commenting on this hadith, Faisal Qaadir, he says, verily Allah is beautiful, that is absolute beauty in His essence, attributes, and actions. He missed one more category, which is His names. As I mentioned, Imam al-Qayyim will mention next. So al-Jamil, when we see Allah's al-Jamil, we studied this before in the sisters' lessons, for those who were there, in the beautiful names and attributes of Allah. We already studied it. But we studied the name al-Jamil briefly. Al-Jamil means all the most beautiful, the utmost, and the most beautiful. So Allah has al-Jamal al-Mutlaq, absolute, complete beauty, fi dhatihi, in His essence, wa asma sifatihi, in His attributes, wa fa'alihi, His action, wa asma'ihi, and His names. So here, remember now we mentioned three, Ibn al-Qayyim, as we'll mention just in a second, he adds the fourth one, which is His names. So pay attention to the source of beauty. And the reason why this is valuable, if you know beauty comes from Allah, who are you going to source it from? Who are you going to ask to give you beauty or to beautify you? And it's important because in our society, again, and I'm going to touch on the modern issue, we have misunderstood in Western society, we've misunderstood beauty. And because of this, we have created a problem. We create a problem, a void. And people don't know how to fill it. In fact, people are searching for beauty in the wrong places and in the wrong form. So knowing beauty comes from Allah, ask Allah to make dua to Allah to beautify you inwardly and outwardly. And focus on that. Whereas some people, when they talk about beauty, because of the misunderstanding of it, they limit it and they don't actually focus on the source. And we see that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he clearly told us that source of beauty. Further explaining this, Ibn al-Qayyim, he writes in his Kitab al-Fawaid, he explains Allah's name al-Jamil. We might not have time to go through all of it. It's a kind of long passage, but let's just read some of it. And you can go back, it's in English. Here's the source. Al-Fawaid, the English translation, page 303, 301, and 303. A lot of the resources I'm using today are available in English. So that can also help us to go back and to read. So Kitab al-Fawaid is being translated into English, page 301 to 303. Ibn Qayyim, he uses this, he mentions this definition. Just to read some of it. Chapter, he says, the beauty of Allah the Exalted. He says, the most precious kind of knowledge is to know Allah the Exalted through His beauty. And this is granted to the truly pious amongst His creatures, while others know Him through one of His attributes, while those who know Him best know Him through His perfection, glory, and beauty. There is nothing like Him in His attributes. If you assume that all creatures are beautiful, and we think of the most beautiful one we know, and compare them inner and outer beauty to that of Allah the Exalted, it will be like we are comparing the light of a candle to the sun. Allahu Akbar. And surely, if He withdraws the veil from His face, the splendor of His countenance will consume His creation. Hadith Muslim. And the beauty that is contained in the inner and outer elements of the worldly life and hereafter come from the effects of His creation. That's the point I want to highlight that we're getting this from, our section here. The beauty that is contained in the inner and outer elements of this worldly life and the hereafter included comes from the effect of His creation. What then is the extent of the beauty of the Creator? And so Allah's beauty, all beauty is the effect, is the athar of Allah's beauty. So what do you think then Allah's beauty? Couple that with the greatest blessing, Jannah, which we know, which is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. And it's some things like this, obviously, are so inspiring because then we get to read and understand and appreciate what is meant by beauty, because we're talking about Allah, who is the most beautiful. So due to the time, and there's more to mention, and I want to leave some time then for some questions answered, I'm going to just leave the quote there for whoever wants the rest of it. You can get it from the PDF copy available online, Kitab al-Fawaid, Ibn Qayyim, 301 and 303. On what we're establishing here is a source of beauty, and therefore we should know that when it comes to beauty and its understanding and its increase, and it's ask Allah, and Allah loves beauty. He is all beautiful, and all beauty is a source from Him, and it's proof of His existence. And so always remember that, because as creation, we're in dire need of being reminded of that. Moving into further into our conversation, Ibn Qayyim, he has also lines in Qasid Nuniyya in which he establishes the same point. In English, he says, let's translate it, and He is al-Jameel in actuality, and how not, when the beauty of the entire universe is just some of the effects of the most beautiful. So its Lord is more deserving to be beautiful and according to the people of understanding. His beauty is in essence attributes, actions, and names according to the evidence. So essentially, he's saying the same things in different, that everything you see of beauty, it is proof of Allah's beauty and a source from Allah. And to make it more practical for us, when we look at our own beauty, we thank Allah. Okay, we have to internalize it. When you see yourself in the mirror, you like what you look at, you like what you see, you're happy with your appearance, and you should be, as we'll see today, you should be. Then thank Allah. You see, we don't want as human beings to be conceited and arrogant, as we find people who Allah gave them beauty, but He didn't give them taqwa. And we're going to see the dangerous connection between beauty and lack of piety. Yes, if someone's not careful, their beauty can be a source of punishment. But if you use the beauty as a type of gratitude, then it is also a great ni'mah. So just remember, if Allah is a source of beauty, thank Him. And alhamdulillah means we're thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who Himself is are perfect and has absolute beauty and perfection, etc. Okay, moving along from here. A punishment, how? We're going to get to it. We're going to get to that. Some people, the beauty becomes a source of punishment because it misguides them from the straight path, and it leads to arrogance and disobedience. And this is something which Ibn Qayyim, and for that, sorry, his teacher, Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, talks about. And I'm going to cite the proof for that. So, and also other scholars. To really get to the heart of the topic of beauty, we need to know the categorization. Aqsam al-Jamal. We need to know the categories of beauty. And by dividing beauty into two categories, we'll actually be able to better understand how to go about understanding it and dealing with it. So the first is to take a look at what Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim both said, which is beauty is divided into two, outer and inner. So zahir means outer beauty, batin, inner beauty. So when we think about beauty, outer is the physical beauty we see, people's form, structure. What batin is the inner beauty, the one we talk about in society, people's character, morals, etc. And look what Ibn Qayyim he writes in his Kitab Rawd al-Muhibbin. Again, Ibn Qayyim has a whole book on love, right? The garden of the lovers. Essentially, in there, he talks a lot about beauty And he talks about also love, good of it, the bad of it, etc. He writes, rahimahullah, know that beauty divides into two: outer, zahirun, and inner, batinun. Inner beauty is that which is beloved in and of itself. Okay, first benefit, in and of itself. So, mahbubun lidatihi. Inner beauty is beloved in and of itself, means it's something which we're all striving for. That is, we're not looking for, right, it as an extension. We want it in and of itself. Because what is it? He said inner beauty is knowledge, intellect, generosity, and courage. Again, that's not restriction. There's more, but right. So those are all qualities, but which you can say are sifat, the attributes, right? Knowledge, intellect, generosity, courage. It also is right good manners, right? Good deeds, all of that. He says the inner beauty is the place Allah the Exalted looks towards in His servants, and it is the place of His love as it comes in the Hadith. So the second benefit we learn that Allah, He judges us and He focuses on our inner beauty, not our outer beauty. Now some may say, why and how? Just let's look at the Hadith first and we'll come back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, verily Allah does not look at your forms and your wealth, but looks at your heart and your actions. So many of us, we know the Hadith. Inna Allah la yanduru ila suwarikum wa ila amwalikum. Allah doesn't look at your forms and your money. Like yanduru ila qulubikum a'malikum. Your hearts and your actions. So Ibn Qayyim says the inner beauty adorns the outer form, even if the outer form is not beautiful in and of itself. So inner beauty illuminates and beautifies the outer beauty, even though people may say the outer beauty is not there for a particular person. All right, so we need to pay attention to this. So the question is, how is inner beauty and outer beauty related? Inner beauty is in and of itself an objective. Outer beauty, we already have it. We already have it, and some have more than others. That's the point. Some people already have it. We all have it. Some have more than others. I'm going to show you in a second. Some have more than others, but we all have it. What did he? Right? What does Allah say? Right? He created human beings what? في أحسن تقويم. وصوركم فأحسن صوركم. Allah formed you and made you in best form. يخلق الله ما يشاء ويختار. Allah creates whatever He wills and He chooses. ما كان لهم خيرا. They don't have any choice in the matter. Allah already gave us the outward beauty. Whether you know it, don't know it, accepted it, or haven't accepted it. And the key then is, if Allah was already giving us the outward beauty, where's next? What's next? What's the key? We're supposed to have gained the inner beauty. As a society, Ibn Qayyim says something more interesting. He says, so you will see a person, beauty. So it earns a person beauty, respect, sweetness in accordance with what the beauty one has. So you will see a righteous, good-looking man who is beautiful, but has beautiful character, become the most handsome of men in form, even if he has darker skin or not beautiful, or is not beautiful, should say, is not beautiful according to the people. And a side benefit, why did Ibn Qayyim say darker skin? Because we know as a society, sadly, that is what people put as the categories, right? Unfortunately, they say lighter skin is more beautiful, darker skin is less. So Ibn Qayyim, when he's trying to save somebody, whatever people think, let's assume people say certain soul is not good looking, in terms of what they expect, someone's inner beauty will mask all of that, those assumptions and those claims. And this is especially true, he says, if Allah grant that person the share of night prayer, for it beautifies the face, it makes it look good. So Ibn Qayyim is talking then about night prayer, because we'll see in some hadith it comes, a night prayer, is a source that allows somebody to beautify their face. Another hadith many of us are familiar with, someone memorizes a hadith. May Allah brighten the face of the one who memorizes my speech and make it basis as he heard it. What's the benefit behind all of this? This statement of Ibn Qayyim is profound. So it divides beauty into two categories and puts the weight on inner beauty, not outer. Because Allah looks to your inner beauty, not your outer beauty. He's already made our outer beauty beautiful. But as a society and as human beings, we're stuck, we're focusing, we're obsessed on the outer beauty. We neglect the inner beauty in general, and then we later end up becoming unhappy, ineffective, unsuccessful. And I'll show you, the non-Muslims are finding out now, the society we're living in is a disaster when it comes to beauty standards. And it's because they didn't have the Islamic understanding of beauty. Zahirun wa batin. They're two words of zahir. And why we will not be amazed, guys, as I'll show you in a second. As non-Muslims, we're not amazed by them, what they're doing, because they don't have guidance. يعلمون ظاهرا من حياة الدنيا. They just know the apparent nature of the dunya. وهم في الآخرة هم غافلون. They don't know about the hereafter. They don't have revelation. But we also see a benefit by working on our inner beauty. This is what's going to make us successful, truly beautiful. It's going to give us al-jamal al-haqiqi, the real beauty. Again, as a society, what do we say on our lips all the time? We talk about inner beauty. But do we really care about inner beauty? That's the question, right? Because if we did, why would we be so focused on all the beautifiers and plastic surgery and cosmetics and list goes on. And you can see, right, so much of this. In fact, I mean, I don't want to bring cultural references and stuff like that, but you guys can fill in the blank. There's so much of that. Okay. Okay, طيب, let's move on for a second. And again, any questions you just leave in the chat, inshallah, we'll take them as we go or towards the end. Let us now look at this quickly. Is the summary then? Beauty is outer and inner. Outer is physical appearance, inner is the character and morals. This is more important. So because Allah has given us, right, created us in the best form, outer beauty is already given, but some have more than others. That's the key. Example I already gave you. Prophet Yusuf has given half. We have less than that, but that doesn't mean we don't have beauty. And this is another problem we find, that our understanding of beauty has become a zero-sum game, isn't it? It's a zero-sum game for many people. So someone will say, that person is beautiful. As for me, I'm not. Where are we getting that from? Where are we getting that from? And this is the problem. Our negative self-talk and low self-esteem can also damage our understanding of beauty when the Quran and Sunnah tells one thing, but society is teaching us something else. So think about it this way. It's gradation. It's levels. Prophet Yusuf has half. Nabi Sallallahu potentially has more, according to some scholars. Us, we all have beauty. That's the baseline. But some have more than others. So the baseline is beauty, and some have more. But some will say, but there's some people who have what's apparent to us, none or less, very less. Again, that's our understanding of it. But even if we were to agree to that some people have very less beauty, comparatively speaking, that person has the hope of inner beauty. In fact, that person has a chance to be beautiful because he's already beautiful, and they can work on the inner morals and character. Is going to make them more beautiful. Allah, at this point, is what liberates Islam and Muslims from all the problem that we have today and our society, as we'll get to in a second. Here now, we learn a number of lessons. The difference between outer and inner beauty. A person can increase in their inner beauty, whereas the outer beauty is very difficult to change. And this is the fact I just mentioned, that Allah created some people more beautiful than others. What can we do? يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَزِيدُ فِي خَلْقِهِ عَفْوًا مَا يَشَاءُ. In Surah 35, Surah Fatir, Allah, He mentions something very interesting. Scholars, they comment on it, and many of them say it means in beauty. قال الله تعالى الحمد لله الذي فاطر السماوات والأرض جاعل الملائكة رسلا أولي أجنحة مثنى وثلاث ورباع يزيد في خلقه ما يشاء. Allah, all praise to Allah, the origin of heaven and earth, who has made some of the angels as messengers who have wings, 2, 3, or 4. He increases in His creation that which He wills, which means, according to some of the scholars, beauty. So some angels have more wings. Jibril has 600. Also, we know Jibril is the biggest and the greatest of the Malaika. We also know he's one of the most beautiful of Allah's creation. So some scholars say that ayah doesn't only have to do with Malaika in general. So some people have more beauty than others. So the big question would be, if I told you beauty is just in the eye of the beholder, khalas, or beauty is just in the physical appearance, we're finished. Some people are going to say, well, I'm not going to be as beautiful as so-and-so. And then you're not going to do anything else about it. And you find so many people like this who are stuck. Number 2, outer beauty fades as one ages, whereas inner beauty remains. So empowering. If you think about it, it's very empowering. Today, as a society, people are trying to, cover up their blemishes so much, right? And it's not haram to do that, right, to a certain degree. But I'm talking about people who are obsessed about youthful age. They don't want to age. Imam Ibn Hazm, he writes in his Kitab Morals and Behavior, which is Akhlaq al-Siyar. He writes page 64, and in his English translation again. If you take pride in your beauty, think of the harm it gives rise to. And answering the sister's question earlier, what the harms it rises to? What he's talking about? He's talking about the arrogance, the conceitedness, the fact that you'll be tempted by more people because you're good looking. People might give you or also offer you to do things which are not good. So much can come from it. It's a test. He says we would be ashamed to put into words. You yourself will be ashamed of it when your beauty disappears with age. But in saying this, we had said enough. If we understand that beauty fades, when you put all your emphasis on the outer beauty, just prepare to be disappointed. No wonder so many people, they're looking back at themselves, kicking themselves, right? Saying, oh, I'm getting uglier and uglier, forgetting the fact that aging is not only reality, right? If all we had was inner beauty, then why would Allah make us age? The dunya is temporary. You have to realize this. And next thing, the greatest benefit, the blessing Allah gives a person is inner beauty. Imam al-Qayyim writes in Al-Muhibbin, page 222, just like inner beauty is from the greatest blessing of Allah exalted on a servant, outer beauty is also a blessing from him upon a servant and requires gratitude. So that's another thing. If Allah gave you beauty, outer beauty, you're not in trouble. It's not sinful, right? Just thank Allah for it. Be grateful, be humble. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the most beautiful people, the best of people. And look at his humility, right? However, he says, if he's thankful and through piety and protects it, then he increases in beauty over the beauty he already has. However, if he uses his beauty in disobedience, then Allah will change it to apparent disgrace in this world before the after. And that's a very good point benefit. That disgrace will come in the dunya qabla akhirah. So a lot of people we know, celebrities are probably the biggest example, who have what is apparently, right, to everybody, apparent outward beauty, but they are the people who are humiliated and no good because they do sins, right? And they're not believers. So go back to what I said. So he says if you use beauty in disobedience, Allah will change it to apparent disgrace. So what is it? That the person who has outward beauty and is not thankful to Allah, but is arrogant and conceited, and uses that to do bad things or look down upon others, then Allah's going to humiliate them. An example, see the celebrities. They're apparently beautiful, right? Because, I mean, that's why they're celebrities. Oftentimes, it's their beauty that gets them, or sometimes the fake beauty. As we know, they do plastic surgery, many of them. And what happens is that that beauty that they have allows them to gut, to do bad things, to get away, to look down on people, mistreat them. And how many have we found today falling down the ranks, right? In the fall from grace, even though they didn't have a lot of grace. But you see this, and this is a proof that their test, they failed it. They didn't thank Allah, the source of beauty, and they used it to belittle others and disobey. And remember, Taymiyyah, he talks about that, right? The test of children and women and others who have good beauty, Allah will test you. You want a clear example? Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. He has half a beauty. What test did he face? Right? The wife of Aziz is trying to seduce him. And he passed the test. But look at this. Beauty, with beauty comes challenges. Yes, imagine Prophet Yusuf, how beautiful he is, as pious he is. But yet, this test came his way. And he passed it. Hadith Bukhari Muslim, the 7 people Allah is going to shade. One of them is a man who's presented or offered, a woman who offers herself to him, who's beautiful, has status. And he said, I fear Allah. Right? Look at that other side of the test. Right? Right? So someone says, Alhamdulillah, beauty is more important, but is permissible to ask Allah to increase your physical beauty? Of course. And we're going to get to that as we go towards the end, because Islam is balanced. We don't neglect outer beauty. We acknowledge both, but we put the emphasis where it deserves. If you and I understand these benefits, now we can move towards conceiving the correct way to go about beauty, which is you put emphasis on the inner beauty, but you don't neglect outer beauty. Outer beauty is already there. We're supposed to preserve it, maintain it, right? Thank Allah for it. But what we're supposed to work heavily on is our inner beauty. And we don't want to become victims of people who worry about their outer beauty so much at the expense of the inner beauty. And you find in our society, if we don't catch ourselves, protect ourselves, our society puts 100% emphasis, you could say, almost 100% emphasis on outer beauty, to the point that we're willing to live fake lives, and social media filters, Facetune, body tune, all the stuff that we're doing, filters, photoshopping, whatever it is, plastic surgery. We want to live in that world, and we don't care about our inner beauty, and then we're finding it to be destructive for our dunya and our akhirah. Here is probably a great snapshot and a recommended book you can read if you want to know what's really going on in the Western society. And this book is called Beauty Sick. And this book, Beauty Sick, is written by Renee Englund, PhD sociologist, how the cultural obsession with appearance hurts girls and women. And look what she writes. This is a passage from the book. Question is, are we able to answer this page? Is it a certain website? This book, this is a book. You can get this book later. Inshallah. All this presentation also will be shared at the end, inshallah. So can you give ways to increase the physical beauty? We're going to talk about that towards the end, inshallah. Okay, look at this quote. She says, beauty sickness is what happens when women's emotional energy gets so bound up with what they see in the mirror that it becomes harder for them to see other aspects of their lives. It starts surprisingly early, as soon as the young girls are taught that their primary form of currency in this world involves being pleasing to the eyes of others. Although we hear the most beauty sickness, but most of the beauty sickness in young women, it's a malaise that affects women of all ages. You can't simply grow out of it. You must break free with deliberate intent and perseverance. Again, the book goes into great deep detail on studies. Again, she done herself to prove that this is actually an illness. It's not something you can see through X-rays, she says, but it's a source of anxiety and depression. And look how she says women, and the focus on women. And it's not to say that it's not men, because in one of her interviews, she says men also have beauty standards, but their role in society is mostly to do with their function, and less to do with their appearance. And how do we know that? Men are given more status based on their money, wealth, and accomplishments, whereas women, sadly, they focus so their society pressures them in focusing on their appearance, so they objectify them from young ages. And so therefore, beauty sickness is what's happening in the West. It's happening in the East too, but the Western world is probably where it's all sourced from, because they don't have the correct concept of beauty. They think beauty is zahir, external and outward, and they neglect the inward, as you said, other aspects of their lives. So take a woman who's intelligent, who has, success, who's maybe even, successful in, let's say, in business, or has, successful family, or other good qualities. She's caring, all this stuff. Our society gives little weight to that. They just judge her based on appearance. And that would make a judgment of who she is and she isn't. Right? And how do we know that? People who are very beautiful, they get by with so much, they get away with so much, despite their crooked behavior and morals. They call it the halo effect, right? Where beautiful people, right, get away with bad things because we get mesmerized by their beauty. And we also see that then women are figuring out early that she getting good grades or getting a job or being, very good person is not given a lot of weight, right? So it's pretty privileged. Yep. Body dysmorphia, yes, men have that problem, right, as well, especially bodybuilding in that world. So when you think about this, you can read the book, right, and look at it more. She talks deeply about it. I want to take this quote and think about it, that this is Western. Islamically, yes, we don't have this problem, but Muslims may have it because we live here and we also live across the world. So pulling out from this, I'm going to draw something. I don't find it surprising that this is a reality in the West, that they're focusing so much on apparent beauty, because their concept of beauty is mostly zahir. It's about the apparent, outward. They don't focus. They don't really know about inward as much, because how can you work on inward appearance if you don't have Allah and revelation and religion? I mean, Western society is very godless too. So without religion, there's not much care about morals. We talk about the apparent, it gives superficial. And look what Allah says. And this is important because when we say beauty is skin deep, right? That's literally in the Western world is skin deep, because you go under the knife, right? Literally under the knife. And this is scary because in our society, even us as Muslims living in the West, we're also being affected by this because we're focusing on it as everybody else is. And what's important, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, your Lord creates whatever He wills, whatsoever He wills and chooses, no choice have they in the matter. So when we have little control over our outward appearance, we're told our outward appearance is beautiful. But society is saying not good enough. We need to go further and further and further. So we're going plastic surgery, we're doing all this other stuff. And then it creates distress, depression, and lack of happiness, because the origin of happiness is your actions, what you do, not what you look like. But we're worrying about what we look like, not what we do. And if we do bad things, you feel angry and depressed. And she talks about the rise of anxiety and depression amongst women. And this is because, again, objectification, self-objectification, the list goes on. Now I'm going to source this to the Munafiqun of Medina. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he talked about the hypocrites, and Allah spoke about them, and He called them out for their same problem. Munafiqun kuffar, right? They disbelievers, true Munafiqin I'm talking about, the ones who have no heart, belief in the heart. They have good outer appearances, empty hearts, no iman. And in the Western world, same thing. So this is an emphasis on vanity and self-entitlement rather than the gratitude community. Exactly. قال الله تعالى, Allah says about the munafiqun, وَإِذَا رَأَيْتُهُمْ, when you see them and when you look at them, تُعْجِبُكَ أَجْسَامُهُم, their bodies please you. When يقولوا تسمع لقولهم, when they speak, you listen to them. كأنهم خشب مسندة, they're like wood, blocks of wood propped up. They think that every cry is against them. Look how Allah described them. Beautiful bodies, beautiful speech. Pieces of wood that are empty, hollow, shallow. And what's even more interesting than that? Shallow here, wooden blocks here, shallow, no benefit. Scholars tafsir say it means they have no benefit. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah has a book. It's called Jamal, Fadluhu, Haqiqatuhu, Aqsamuhu. Beauty, its virtue, its types, and its categories. He writes on page 104, People were only amazed at their apparent forms observable to the eye and their apparent statements that were heard due to what they contained of amazing manners. However, since the reality of their character, which is more in their control, contained hated and despised things, any bad language, bad behavior, their outer form of speech did not benefit them. See, think about it. Somebody has a mashallah appearance, beautiful, apparently, but they do lying. No matter what we think, that person's stained, right? Someone's a liar, nobody wants to be in their company. Someone's a backbiter, someone's a cheater, someone's arrogant, someone is narcissist. Think about it. Me and you are learning now, and as society is also learning, that these celebrities we put on a pedestal because of their beauty. Later on, we turn away from them, we drop them from that status due to their narcissism. But how can that be their fault only when we as a society already started by giving them this pedestal? That's our fault. And then what happens later? We were shocked that they're not good people. I mean, what made them good? What made them famous anyways? Why it wasn't their character, it was their appearance. And later we're like, oh, that person's a jerk or they're bad. It's like, well, yeah, we only put them there because we like how they look. Subhanallah. And that's why when we think of the prophets and messengers, alayhi salam, they're amazing, especially Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, physically amazing appearance. As Sahaba described him like a full moon, even more beautiful. But his character is even beautiful, more beautiful than that. That's what amazes people more. Someone that good looking, that look at his akhlaq, it's amazing, right? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ is the greatest example and role model for us, in and outer beauty. Continuing now, the hypocrites had the best form. As it comes in Hadith Muslim, Allah's Messenger, one of the Sahabi says, and they were in fact apparently good-looking persons. Hadith Muslim, they were very good-looking. And yet Allah refers to them as blocks of wood, propped up, meaning no benefit. So the fact that they had outer appearance and no inner beauty, this shows you that it's no benefit. This is the whole benefit. This is the whole point of this. However, that doesn't negate that we can't have good appearance. Be careful. We're not saying no, don't care about your appearance. We're going to show the balance towards the end. But look at this point of happiness and beauty. Inner beauty grants a person happiness because inner beauty includes good deeds, which leads to happiness. And on top of that, happiness, it also improves your outer appearance, which people are looking for to begin with. It's a cycle. Work on your inner appearance, and you're going to be more beautiful outwardly. And you're going to be more happier because of your inner beauty. قال الله تعالى من عمل صالحا من ذكر وأنثى. Whoever works righteousness, male or female, وهو مؤمن, and they're a believer, فنحيينه حياة طيبة. We're going to give them the good life. See, Islam, the beauty of it, it's the answer, the solutions we get. If you told someone today, work on your inner beauty, your character, and your manners, take care of your body as well. Your body has right over you. No problem. Take care of it. But work on your manners. Look how people are going to view you. People are going to see you as more beautiful. And therefore, there's hope for everybody because we all can improve ourselves. And it also explains why the most beautiful people apparently sometimes lack the greatest forms of happiness. I mean, how many good-looking people have insecurities? And we're thinking, what are you insecure about? And they are. And it's true. And you have people who, we know many people who, when we look at them, they're not very beautiful. From what we understand, I mean, maybe average. But look, when we look at them and we see them, how they behave, we love them. And we want to be with them because their akhlaq and character. And look at this dua now, and this is one of the practical steps we can use. Read this dua. Hadith Sahih, قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, used to teach us, Allahumma, oh Allah, ahsanta khalqi, you made beautiful my appearance. Again, talk about Zahir. فأحسن خلقي, make good my manners. i.e., batin. Jamal batin. You see how this Sharia looks with the put focus? Allah, you already made beautiful my appearance. And I love this dua because it teaches us that look how we're supposed to look at things. We don't look in the mirror and say, astaghfirullah, I'm ugly. No, this is wrong. And I'm going to show you, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam changed everything. Wallahi, Islam is the only religion can really give us these answers. I'm telling you straight. Right, this dua is beautiful, and this dua we should read. This is one of the practical steps for takeaway for today's lesson. You can help yourself through it. So you can read it, but look at this fact that we need to fix our concept. Some of us, again, we're so worried about appearance, outward appearance, and because of that, we're not able to work on our inner appearance because we have low self-esteem. We're feeling bad. But if we reversed it and say, hey, work on your deen, your salah, and you're already beautiful, suddenly you start feeling good about yourself, optimistic, strong self-esteem. And when you feel confident, you are beautiful, right? We learned that also, right? Confidence is part of it. Now, this hadith, and this is probably with this is a sharaf, an honor, and the proof of Islam and its truth. Allah la ilaha illahu. Without these, this is what makes Islam Islam. These are the kind of evident teachings. This is called, you can put this in the category of what's called i'jaz tashri'i. This is from the miracles of the Islamic teachings. Islam teaches strong self-esteem, guys, 1400 years ago. Look at this hadith. Allah already tells us, verily we created man in the best structure. Ash-Sharir ibn Suwayd al-Thaqafi said, one day, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam followed a man from the Thaqif tribe, and he caught up to him. And literally, Rasulullah jogged behind him until he caught up to him and grabbed his thobe. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, raise your izar. The man was doing isbal, right? And keeping their garments below the ankles. So the man turned around and said, Ya Rasulullah, he lifted his thobe and said, uncovering his knees, and said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm hunchbacked and I'm bow-legged. So for those reasons, I'm keeping my thobe down there to hide it. What is he doing? He's hiding it. Because again, human nature, he's embarrassed or he's shy. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, all of Allah's creation is great. كل خلق الله حسن. All of Allah's creation is beautiful, including you. And what happened? The man was never seen again, except his izar was the middle of his shins. Whose toe was that high? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. Prophet used to wear his toe the middle of his shins. When he heard this hadith, never ever again, except that he's doing the sunnah, the Prophet inspired him, empowered him. What you see is something deficient, and it's actually beauty. Allah created all of us beautiful. Allahu Akbar. This hadith, I think, is one of the greatest examples of not only practicality of Islam, but also what the non-Muslim researchers are saying today. We got to change our mind, our frame, our mindset. Nabi Sallallahu talking to a person who has a physical disability and is empowering him and telling him you're beautiful. Me and you today, we hear body positive messages, right? And all this, new campaigns. It's old news, but new for a society which has corrupt understandings. The Western society is behind, guys. It's behind. Their values and morals are regressive, despite the fact that they are progressive when it comes to their dunya, their worldly material life. Like technology is up, but when it comes to morals, behind. Today, we're just learning. People have to accept their skin color, and subhanAllah, what kind of place, what kind of society we're living in. But when we read this hadith, now we learn. When we look in the mirror, we should say, what should we see? What should we believe? Allah made me beautiful. And if I'm not to become more beautiful, and it's not haram, for example, for me to do things which are within Sharia, losing weight if I feel like I need to lose weight, putting on skin cream and lotion, this is allowed. Dieting is allowed, right? This is allowed. And we're going to talk about the end some other examples. Also, what's allowed, right? Working on your character, working on your deed, being happy, being grateful, being confident. This is what makes people beautiful. Today, in the beauty sector, again, the professor talks about, we need to get away from this idea of excessive concern about outer appearance. But if you told people, why should they? Why? They have no deen. There's nothing going to push them to do it. Islam comes and says here, Allah's messenger taught us that. Allah taught us that. The deen teaches that. You feel suddenly empowered. Allahu Akbar. Really, this hadith for me, ever since I read it, this is a touching hadith. Right? Years ago, I came across the hadith, and until today, it's a very touching hadith, a powerful reminder. This deen, what people find in it, right, the answers and the guidance is unmatched. Because again, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Islam teaches us body positivity and strong self-esteem. But now let's move on, and we're going to try to wrap up with this point for today, and then move to questions and answers, is these points. I'm going to give 3 examples of how Islam teaches us moderation and beauty, and then you could see how to deal with the challenges ahead of us, which is becoming more concerned with the true beauty, not, for example, being overcome with our outer beauty. So in order to do that, I'm going to give 3 examples, inshallah, and to make it practical. And like I said, the topic is vast, but the time is limited, and I want to leave some time for the Q&A, so inshallah that people have a chance to ask questions. But let's talk about the Islamic conception of beauty, which is moderate. If we look to the Sharia, we find a balance in acknowledging both types of beauty, outer and inner. So we already got them. But the focus is on the inner and less on the outer. Now, it doesn't mean then there's no such thing as taking care of your outer. We're just saying you put the weight on the inner and you still have acknowledgement of the outer. Let's give some examples to break it down. Example number 1, marriage. In Islam, when someone is looking for a spouse, what does the Sharia say? To look for somebody who is beautiful, right? A woman is married for her beauty. And likewise, God say for a man. For a man, likewise, women look for beauty. What does beauty mean? It means apparently outward beauty. But what did Prophet make the distinguishing characteristic of acceptance of spouse? Right? What did he make as the determinant as someone who's good or not good? No hadith says if she's beautiful, take her. If she's not beautiful, leave her. Right? It doesn't say that. It says take her deen. Take look at the one who has the religion. May your hand be covered in dust, which is dua for the person. If he does that, one interpretation is that may Allah give you richness if you do it. Allahu Akbar. So here, for the men, it's look for the person of character. That's the determination. For the women, same thing. Someone comes to you who you're pleased with their deen and their khuluq. Again, what is khuluq and what is deen? الجمال الباطن. إذا خطب إليكم من ترضون دينه وخلقه فزوجوه. Subhanallah. So what do we learn from this? I think reflecting today's lesson, what we take from this. You look to the outward beauty, جمال الظاهر, and you make a decision based on جمال الباطن, the good manner, the good character, and the morals. So you give priority to the good character, but you're acknowledging what? The outer beauty. Why? You're not going to marry someone that good looking to you. Hence, the statement that there is beauty in the eye of the beholder is correct, because everybody will find something more beautiful. And you want examples of that? You can find in the Kitab, Imam Ibn Jawzi has a Kitab called Akhbar Nisa, and he talks about all types of women, different forms, different beauties. It's an interesting book. And there he says that men or people find different things beautiful. There you go. Of course, it goes much more detail than that. But the point is, Akhbar Nisa, he talks about it. So yes, we do believe that. But sisters, look, when you're judging people, when I go, this person is so beautiful. Why? Because the person is beautiful is not going to necessarily be a good husband or good wife. We already know that. Because the person's character is what makes them more beautiful. And what's the proof of this? If we want to have strong marriages, and we did not do what the Prophet told us, we went for Jamal al-Zahir. You can't complain later when someone doesn't have Jamal al-Batin. Because you didn't look. And you find today, some of us will learn the hard way. I want to share something even more beautiful. Remember Ibn Jawzi, he writes, Capture Thoughts. It's taken from his book, Capture Thoughts. I think it's, I forget the exact page number, but you can, I'm going to source it later. I ran out of time to put the source. Look what he noticed. He says himself, I noticed that the healthy person does not realize the value of his health until he becomes sick. Okay, that's the healthy person. I think it's over here. Yeah, here. And okay, I realize a very interesting meaning when I ponder the condition of men. When a man has a woman with average beauty, look, average, his heart is not attached to her in a joyful manner for two reasons. Number one, she's not that pretty, and secondly, what one has often disliked, and self always seeks what he cannot have. Therefore, sometimes you find the man is bothered and desires another woman while he's unaware that he is after heavy chains, restricting his heart from focusing on the hereafter, or even any other work or deed in his life. Thus, he becomes a prisoner to whom he is in love with and only thinks of her, a truly wanderer, at the free who prefers prison, and the relaxed that prefers tiredness. Why does he say this? Because again, he's not saying someone should not marry someone beautiful. But scholars, like Ahmed, others, they mention, if a person's beauty is above average, like a very beautiful or extremely beautiful, it doesn't mean that person is a good person for you. Because it has been mentioned that it can distract you. He also and others talk about the fact that that beauty fades, and what's left is the akhlaq. And you find other people, and I think if you keep going the quote, he talks about that a woman who has average beauty but has good character and manners, she becomes more beautiful than that person, even than the other one. And the reality is what? We as a society know this, the Quran Sunnah, as Muslims. But we got affected by our Western culture, right? Because when we're going for the marriage proposals and stuff, we're looking on this. Not to be, look at the online scene. People are trying to use the apps and stuff, right? People swiping here, swiping there. What are you judging on? Not person's profile. We just say, oh, that person. No, I don't like the way they look. I don't have to see a picture here. And we're doing this in society. We're learning from the kuffar. And the kuffar are the last people to to be judging with. But you get my point. And if we turn around now and ask the question, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Prophet many wives. All of them, of course, are beautiful. Nabi Sallallahu wives, what makes them the most beautiful? They're the mothers of believers, they're deen. Allah said to Prophet Zakaria alayhi when he's getting him ready, him and his wife to have a child, وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ وَأَصْلَحْنَا لَهُ زَوْجَهُ. We corrected her what? Her character and manners. Allah beautified her further for the Jamalul Batin. And then we have who? Who is produced from that? union, Yahya alayhi salam. But me and you, if we're thinking, oh, Islam says just pray, Salah. No, Islam says take care of your appearance. Both husband and wife have to look good for each other. But when you're choosing people, we don't know it now. But if we look carefully, what we really want is people who respect us, who love us, who care about us, who ask about us, who concerned for our well-being dunya and akhirah. Not somebody who's so beautiful and is conceited, right? The same way we hope, but we're not like that either, right? But you get my point, right? It's a very interesting idea. Next example, and I'll finish with these two: prophethood and plastic surgery. As you can see, I ran out of time, but I'm going to explain it. Maybe later I'll put it into the notes. Prophethood. Allah sent the prophets, messengers, and they all had beautiful outward appearances, but even more beautiful inward appearance. Prophet Yusuf, we said half a beauty, but what made him more amazing? His akhlaq. So much so that Imratul Aziz admitted she was wrong, and the women and Aziz made him the agriculture minister. From what? His good akhlaq and his deen. But his beauty was what they were tempted by. They were amazed by his beauty, such they thought he was an angel. But look at his akhlaq and manners. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam even more so. In fact, Imam al-Jawzi writes in his Captured Thoughts, Allah never sent a prophet or a messenger or someone who is close to him, except he gave him good appearances. In one hadith, Shaykh Al-Albani authenticates in the Sahihah, the Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, do not send as an ambassador to me except one who has good physical appearance and a good face and good speech. So scholars, some of them say that this is from the Bab of Da'wah. That you do Da'wah, you send somebody who is good in appearance, so people naturally who are inclined to good appearances, they will listen to that person more so. In fact, there's actually a lot of benefit and truth in that. Ibn Qayyim and Imam Ghazali both admit and write that the people naturally are inclined to good appearances. So for those reasons, the prophets and messengers, who the people were supposed to listen to, have good appearances. So it's not to say that Islam neglects good appearances, outward appearances. Look, we have to wash our bodies once every 7 days. We do ghusl al-Jum'ah, and if you don't, even ghusl al-Janaba, and even beyond that, regular showering, wudu, grooming. We have the khasal al-fitra, the characteristics of fitra, cutting the underarm, pubic hair, nails. This is our deed. So outward appearance counts. But imagine somebody, mashallah, is groomed perfectly or as best as possible, and then they say bad things. They behave poorly. That's not Islam that teaches. You got to match the in with out. And this is the last one I want to talk about: plastic surgery. Islam is balanced in that Islam acknowledges what's called corrective surgeries. Islam allows corrective plastic surgery, but not cosmetic. Lahaz, guys, pay attention. I'll finish with this. Corrective plastic surgery is allowed in Islam. What is that? Somebody who has a blemish that came upon them suddenly, or they were born that way, despite the baseline being everybody's born beautiful. Some people, they're born with deficiency that is not usual in people. So the example is someone born with extra limb. Someone's, for example, born with a particular birthmark or something. They want to remove it, correct it to get them where? To the baseline, which is beauty. Standard is beauty. But if someone's patient, right, for example, with that, Allah's going to reward them more for their patience. Now, can I compare that to cosmetic surgery? Somebody's good looking, says, you know what, I want to be even more good looking. Who allowed you to make yourself more beautiful than how Allah created you? Aren't you already beautiful? So this is the Western world. The Western world, because they worry so much and give hope to only the outward, everybody's doing corrective cosmetic surgery, to the point that they're beautifying themselves in haram ways. And you know what's even more crazy about this? They're not happy. They're not. They want more and more and more, and because they're not happy. And this shows you again, at the end of the day, that Islam says no to cosmetic surgeries, yes to corrective surgeries. Hence, outward appearance matters, but not more important than your akhlaq. There's many examples of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, empowering the Sahaba, right, with these examples. Right, I'll give you quickly the woman who came to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asking for the fact that she has epilepsy. She asked Rasul to make dua to her, Allah doesn't uncover her. He gave her the choice: you want dua, Allah take this away from you, or you be patient, she'll be patient. Allahu Akbar. It's just unbelievable when you think about it. Look at the level of her iman, her understanding, right? But another example would be somebody who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested them with absolute beauty and they're having a problem with being humble. So that person has to learn that, look, Allah gave you outward beauty, so humble yourself. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the most beautiful person, and he was the most humble. And I finish with this. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, one day he came out to the Sahaba and he said something what just teaches us the level of humility. He said, and I'm going to finish with this inshallah, and then we'll take the questions The Prophet ﷺ said, "Ana Sayyid ibn Adam, wala fakhr." I am the master of the people of uh, of the human beings, and I'm not arrogant. Literally, I'm the best of the best, but I'm not arrogant. Allahu Akbar. Yani, his appearance, his akhlaq, his status with Allah, everything that he could have told the people who he is, he said, he's doing ikhbar, he's just letting them know, but I'm not arrogant. That teaches us that the people who Allah gave them our beauty, and people, for example, if one of us is tested this way, Allah gave us a lot of beauty, just always remember, it's a test. Be humble, beautify yourself more with salah and good deeds, because then you're gonna reach like these people, these great people over here. Inshallah, we'll end with this much. Again, this topic is very in depth. Hopefully, we shed light on it, inshallah ta'ala, in a way that people could appreciate. I really do think in the future, inshallah, we could pick it up and add more to it and try to expand the topic. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Inshallah, I'm gonna close the stream. I'm gonna answer then the questions bidna ta'ala. And we will share, all of this will be shared, inshallah. The whole presentation will be shared with the sisters, inshallah, and possibly uploaded to YouTube as we did before, bidna ta'ala. So let me just stop this.